everyone, and welcome to the Kick-Ass Conferences talk show. I'm Nessa Jimenez. I'm the operations manager for Kick-Ass Conferences.
And I'm Isaac Watson, executive producer at Kick-Ass Conferences.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us. So today's topic, we're going to start with, I think, like the very basics, the very essential. Today's topic is, why should you host a conference? And that's a great question. So why don't we jump right into it? I guess let's go first into, what are your general thoughts of like, why host the conference? Why an event?
I think the why question is always a good place to start for an individual who's thinking about it. Like, why do you really want to bring people together
Mhm.
into an environment, into an experience? A lot of people who organize communities or are leaders in a particular space like the idea of bringing together their audience under some sort of shared theme or purpose as a
Mhm.
way to kind of develop those relationships and take them a little bit deeper and have something kind of intense even
Mhm. Mhm.
and uh and and do something new and different than just a forum or a newsletter or things like that.
Yeah. So that's a good place to start. Like the purpose of the purpose. So the why. So why do it is like, okay. So what's the reason for it, right? Like what? Why? I guess you could even say like, what's the message, or like, what are you trying to get out there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like what is the whole reason why somebody would want to actually meet you as an organizer or meet other people in your community? What is that draw that's going to bring them there? Because if you can't identify what that is, then you can't really build something around that.
Yeah. And it's something we've seen before, right? Where people they want to do an event and then you ask them, okay, why? And there's like this moment where they're like, like I haven't really thought of it, or I kind of sort of have an idea, but I'm not sure.
Yes, it's so funny because there's I run into this time and time again where people kind of think that a conference is the next natural step for whatever it is they're doing, but it's their marketing plan, maybe it's their business growth, whatever that is. But they haven't really stopped to think about why do it in the first place or question that.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I start asking those questions. And they're like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you don't know that reason,
Yeah.
then it can be challenging to move forward from there.
Yeah. And because my competitor did it, like that's not a good reason, right?
Right.
Like that's never good. Like monkey see, monkey do. That doesn't work, especially with like because you don't know what your competition's uh, reasoning is behind anything, right? Like, okay, they're doing it and it seems cool, but what's more important is like, okay, what do we need to get from this, right?
Right. And I think that in some cases you also don't know what your competition has done to get there.
Yeah, that's true.
What groundwork have they laid? Because if conferences from our perspective are very community forward, and that community could be a group of users of your product. The community could be an audience around a shared interest, around a movement, a cause, whatever that is. There's a lot of groundwork that needs to be laid in order to convince that community that the next step is to gather together in an event format. And the that groundwork is often ignored. And if you like, you can try and host a conference if you want
Sure.
without doing that, but that's an uphill battle because you have to do all of the groundwork and then also market the conference on top of that.
Yeah, and you're already starting at a disadvantage. Like instead of starting at zero, you're like at -10. It's like don't do yourself a favor, right? Like
Yeah.
don't make it hard mode, right? When from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. So why don't we get into that then of like the different kinds of reasons that someone could want to host a conference? Like I think breaking it down like that could make it very clear. Like, what are the different kind of categories that we tend to find people fall into?
Sure. I think that there are, I don't know how many there are off the top of my head, but there are some common ones that our clients tend to come forward with. One, I mentioned this already, the user group
Mm-hmm.
If you build a software product or an app or a tool of some sort or a system that has a lot of users generated around it, that group of users can often form a community, especially if there's an open forum, if there's a training process, things like that. I think if I wanted to give some concrete examples, I think of like people who use Notion, for example. Notion
Mm-hmm.
is a very, very robust database tool that a lot of people use, and there are a lot of different ways to use it. And you have people who have started training other people on how to use it. You have template community experts and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of like a ripe community connection
Mm-hmm.
that's a community that's ripe for a conference type of connection. Another example would be something more cause oriented. So you have maybe a community of people, a grassroots group focused on pushing for change within a particular industry or within a particular social justice
Social
issue.
justice, yeah, of course. Anti-racism, all that kind of
And
stuff.
all of that kind of stuff. Those are the types of shared interests and causes that are really valuable and important to the community. And so hosting a conference centered around that can be a great way to bring those people together to contribute to either problem solving or leadership or sharing their own expertise or their own experiences in a way that helps move that cause or that interest forward more quickly than just having conversations about it.
Yeah, it's like advocacy, right?
Yeah.
It's and even with these two, like I can already identify the different type of people. Like in a user group, for example, Notion, like there are people that identify themselves as fans of Notion, right?
Yes.
But for the cause oriented, you wouldn't say I'm a fan of anti-racism, right? Like no,
Right.
I'm an activist, I'm an advocate, I'm an ally, right?
You're fighting for anti-racism.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that helps as well. Talking about like, okay, who are the people that are going to the thing, right?
Yes.
If it's if it's a fan, it's probably not a cause, right?
Right. Yes. Like, how do you describe your community members? I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
The other kind of category that I was thinking of was more professional development oriented. So we see communities who gather together out of a sense of mentorship, out of a sense of kind of industry support, where having a conference around a particular whether that's emerging professionals in a particular field or you may have a subset of the design industry, for example, that comes together to talk about the things that they do at work and how they do that. So that kind of professional development or industry-based audience or community is also a good example of a type of community that I would say is different than a user group or a cause-oriented community or an advocacy group, where you can still hold a conference around that particular industry in a way that's beneficial to them.
And you can even talk like education, like when people think conference, that's kind of the stereotype, this last group of what people think of, like I have to go because I have to get the education credits, right?
Mm-hmm,
like I have to do because the law says I need to go to X amount every year. Yeah, so that's definitely, you're more likely to go there for like professional networking and like what's the word, certifications, things like that. So that's more of like a student co-worker education type of thing.
Yes.
Cool. So we've already talked a little bit of like why. So to sum it up, we've talked about like purpose, right? Like you have a reason, there's a message, there's something you want to get out there, there's something you want to speak of. Is there any other types that you would want to mention? Because I'm thinking about products. Like what if you have something to sell, right?
Yeah, I think that sales, when you think about organizing something like this, there, like, you have to think about what your goals are. Like, what's the whole point of, like, what do you hope to achieve by doing this? And sales could certainly be part of that.
Mhm.
But I feel pretty strongly that if your sole purpose is to pitch who's attending on buying your latest greatest thing, or um, somehow giving you more money, then that's going to come across really disingenuous. It's going to be very transparent for the people attending, like, oh, this is just a sales pitch. You might as well be
Yeah.
going to a free webinar where you get pitched on buying the book and the training program in the end, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I wish that those had gone away in the 80s and 90s, but
Nope.
they have not. So don't do that. But
Timeshares, that's another one. The timeshares.
Right? No one actually wants to go to the thing to learn about the timeshare. They just want the free lunch.
Yeah.
So don't do that. However, I think that there is a valid place for marketing from a more indirect standpoint. Let's go back to the user group example. So let's say you have this software tool, you have a broad user base. We see this from big tech companies all the way down to little ones, that there's usually some sort of event convened around a product launch, new features, things like that. But the intent beyond that is not necessarily to sell directly what they are announcing. It is to help the community learn and understand from what's coming, to give them the tools they need to continue using it, and to get them excited and to help them become advocates for your product more than give us more money.
Yeah. An example of that would be Adobe Max. Like Adobe Max, they've announced this year. They did it last year online. And it's all done with Adobe. There's Adobe branding everywhere, but they're not literally saying like buy Adobe, right?
Right. They don't send you a follow-up email at the end and say, so you want to renew your Creative Cloud subscription?
Exactly.
Right? Like,
exactly.
That's not how it works. They're there about saying, hey, look at all this exciting stuff we've done. We want to teach you how powerful it is, how you can use it. We want to show off some really fantastic creative projects. Bring these artists to the stage, all that kind of stuff, to support the product that they sell, but without literally selling it to you as part of the event.
And that works so much better than doing like the hard pitch of like buy my stuff. It doesn't work. Like, why do people keep doing it, Isaac?
I mean, I think some of it is ego, and that's not to say that all ego is bad, but those people who are so full of themselves or their business tend to think that that people are going to be clamoring for what's new and what's next, and that this is the perfect opportunity to capture their attention and to keep your business running out of it. And I think if you step back and remove yourself from it, and even to some extent remove your product from it or your service, and say, what does this community actually need? I think you're going to be far better off, because then you can think about, okay, let's go back to the Notion users example. These people need to know how to better use the tool. There are some brilliant people that have done some incredible things with our software. Let's show that off. Let's showcase community members and what they have done to help reinforce the possibilities and the robustness of what we've created, rather than saying, go tell 5 of your friends that they should come and sign up for a free trial. Right?
Exactly. And you already started answering my next question, because I wanted to flip it over and ask, like, okay, why not host a conference? And you've already mentioned 2. So the first one is sales. Like, if you're just trying to sell your stuff, maybe not the best choice. And the second is ego, where it's like, it's all about me and how cool I am and check me out. Any other like big reasons that we've told people like, it might not be right for you?
I would say that some of them are even as simple as logistical, like timelines.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot throw a first time conference together in 3 weeks
Hmm.
or 3 months even. It takes a lot longer to do that. Going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, if you haven't laid that community groundwork, you
Yeah.
should probably think about doing that first.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a community that's primed to attend something like this, then you have to then go out and find that community or build
Exactly.
that community
Exactly.
and then get them to attend.
Yeah,
So
and then convince them to join, and it's like, yeah, you're trying to do years of work in like 2 months. It's not great. It's not the smartest thing.
yes.
And Notion's a great example because there are people that like advocate for Notion and they don't work for them. They're just like super fans. Like people have websites about the things they've made and they're like, like super excited about it. So if you take away the like Adobe, if Adobe doesn't do the conference, there's still an Adobe community. With
Yes.
Notion, I don't know if they've done a conference, but there's still a Notion community out there, right?
Right.
So if you're coming in and saying I want a conference, but there's no community to present that to, yeah, not the right choice. So
Yeah, I think that's one of the keys is you're not building a community in order to host a conference. And you're not hosting a conference in order to build a community. The two go hand in hand. You cannot have a conference without a community, and a community does not galvanize around purely a conference. There has to be something else there.
Okay. And logistics also, I mean, budget. Like that's just another hard fact of life. Like if you don't have the money for it, you don't have any type of idea of what goes into it in terms of money. That's another reason to really think about like maybe my business can't sustain this yet. Can you tell us more about that side of it?
Yeah, I think that it's in a lot of ways, I tell people this all the time. Running a conference or organizing a conference is very much like running an entirely different business from what you currently have. You're setting up something from scratch. It's going to require some investment, even if you go super DIY with it and put in the elbow grease and the sweat equity. It's going to take either a significant investment of time or a significant investment of money. So you have to have a really good understanding of how much. It may seem a little weird, but like, what is an individual member of your community worth to you in dollars? And how much do you want to bring? Like, how much would you pay them to come and attend your conference? Think about it
Interesting.
that way. And maybe that's a little weird. But if you don't have a way of identifying like how valuable your community is to you in terms of your company's bottom line, then it's going to be really hard to craft something and justify the expenses that come with running an event. We're still dealing with pandemic times right now, but at some point we're going to get back to gathering in person, and when you do so, there are a lot of costs at play, whether that's a venue, catering, AV costs, all that kind of stuff can be a lot. Our general rule of thumb for the projects that we work on is that if you want to gather 100 or 150 people together, you should start thinking in terms of $100 to $150 a head. And that adds up really, really, really quickly when it comes to producing the event. And I think the other piece of that is you don't want to put a direct ROI metric on the attendance of your conference. This goes back to the sales conversation, where the conference is about deepening the connection you have with your community and allowing them to deepen the connections with other community members. It's not about delivering dollars to your bank account. And so you have to, in a lot of ways, be willing to, take the hit, so to speak, on the finances if you want to make this successful. And if you're willing to accept that risk, there are ways to offset it through ticket sales and sponsorships and things like that. But if you're not willing to lose everything that that you're going to invest into the event, throughout the process, especially as a first time, then you should probably reconsider.
Yeah, especially going into the first year, like you mentioned earlier, you're creating a new brand within your business, and businesses don't, there's a loss at the beginning, right? And until you start to build that profit. So going into it realistically, like, okay, I'm gonna do this conference this year. I'm probably gonna lose money, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm probably not gonna make a profit, but can I sustain that? And do I want to keep this going? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a conversation we have time and time again with first time conference organizers is, what are your budget goals? And time again, they'll say, well, I want to break even, which to me says, I don't want to put any skin in the game.
Yeah. Or to me, it's like, okay, I just want money. And I think that this is a product that I can get money out of, like a get rich quick type of thing. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. Yeah.
So I usually counter with, okay, and if we're not able to break even, how much are you willing to invest? If we end up in the hole, what's your limit? And if that amount is, anything less than $50,000 or something like that, I would seriously warn them to reconsider, because it's, when you're starting something like this, you have to invest in your community. Otherwise, it's going to show that you're just trying to skate by and go through the motions.
Yeah, and it's not enough to say I want to make money, which is the whole topic of this episode, right? Like, why do you want to do it? If it's just for money, you might. There are other ways to make money. Like, let's be honest, right?
Like I guarantee you would be better off developing a new feature or a new service package or a new product or whatever that is. You would end up investing less in that and launching it and making more money than you would off a conference. Conferences don't make money.
Cool. Okay. So let's with the last couple minutes we have, let's try to wrap this up in a bow, right? Some bullet points.
Yeah.
So why would you host a conference? So we already talked about like purpose, right? You want to share a message. What else?
You want to share a message. You want to bring a community together around a shared purpose and deepen the connection with them. Some of the other reasons would be to further progress toward a cause. Conferences, like, one thing about bringing communities together like this is that you get amazing groupthink, and the energy that develops out of these groups is really, really palpable, and it's really powerful. So if you want to like go next level or make progress on something, especially if you're working on advocacy or any kind of cause worthy of time, that's a great way to do it.
Absolutely. Okay. So thank you so much, Isaac, for that. I hope everyone found this conversation helpful. You can find us at kickassconf.com. All of our links are there, all on the web. We also publish blog posts via LinkedIn, which I will also be sharing the links everywhere. And yeah, we'll see you next time, everyone. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.